How are you guys doing? Well, today we're going to talk about how to handle snobby watch and jewelry stores, etc. There are a lot of stores who are really snobby and snotty and everything else. I'm sure just about everybody has encountered one of those kind of stores. It's not only watch and jewelry stores, there's other stores too. But since this is a watch channel, I'll focus a little bit more on the watch and jewelry stores. So I'm going to just have an informal talk here with you guys. You guys just listen. And I want you to comment in the comment sections, anything you like, any questions, etc. So I'm just going to have an informal talk here and just go through some ideas and concepts and some of my experiences and things I've seen. Okay, let's go. Well, if you're going to go to a store and you really want to have the edge, do some research ahead of time. Look at the online reviews. Look at like word of mouth, things you've heard about the store. So kind of get to know the store in advance if you've never been there before, any kind of store. And you'll get the truth with online reviews. And I would say pay attention to the negative reviews, because these positive reviews could be just shill reviews. Things that the store put on themselves, etc. And don't forget your past experiences in these stores. If one type of store is snobby, was snobby to you, the other types could be and probably are snotty too. So for example, if you go to a watch store, certain kind of dealer, and they're snotty and snobby with you, good chance the next store, maybe 150 miles away, will be the same, similar kind of thing. So just keep track of your past experiences and what your friends may have told you what their past experiences were. So with all this kind of information, you got to know what to expect. So when you walk in a store, jewelry store, watch store, any kind of store, and you know what to expect, you're going to be in better shape. It's not going to be, oh my gosh, they were snotty to me. Well, if you know what to expect, you're going to have the edge. You're going to be well prepared. So when you go to one of these kind of stores, don't try to start something. Don't go in there asking like questions that are going to start something. Don't go in there with fighting attitude. Let them make the first move. Let them make the first snobby move on you. So just go in normal. Let them make the first snobby move. So if you're at one of these kind of stores and you ask a reasonable question, you deserve a reasonable answer or no answer at all. They don't have to answer you. If you're in a store and you ask them a question, any kind of sales clerk or anybody, they don't have to answer you. Don't go in there like expecting that they have to answer you. If you ask like a reasonable question, you do deserve a reasonable answer if the store is reasonable, or no answer at all. But just remember, they don't have to answer you, and you don't have to answer them. And if you do receive a rude and challenging answer, there's no point talking back to them or starting an argument. There's really no point. Just keep in mind, they can throw you out of the store if they want to, and or call the police. Keep in mind, some of these stores, like, they want to win the argument. They want to win. Like, they're sick in the mind. They want to win, so they'll call the police in order to win. Like, let's say that you talk back and you made them feel stupid or something, but they want to win, so they'll call the police on you and accuse you of a bunch of stuff you didn't even do, accuse you of a bunch of stuff you didn't even say. Like, they'll call the police because they want to win, you know. They're these kind of people that no matter if there's a confrontation or a little problem, they want to win, but they'll use the police to win. So you're going to be dealing with those kind of people. These stores, some of them just love to call the police. Like, the police station could be nearby, and any confrontation, anything that irks them a little bit, they'll call the police. So keep that in mind. You don't want to get in that situation where you get the police called on you, or you left the store walking down the street and then a couple police cars comes up to you and starts accusing you of stuff you didn't even do or say. And if this comes to the police being called by the store, expect the police to side in with the business, even if you're in the right. Because if this store, if they're confident enough to call the police, they've probably been doing this stuff before, and they already know the police are going to side in with them. So, if they're in that situation, they're going to call the police. Expect that the police are going to side in with the store. So don't even get in that situation. You're better off just keep your mouth shut, walk out of the store, don't even say a word. Don't be in the conflict. Don't take their goat. Don't give them any reason to fight with you, and don't take their goat. They might try to get your goat and try to get you to tell them maybe to F off or something like that, or make a threat. Don't even get into it. Just walk out. That's your best bet. If you walk out, don't say a word, then you're not going to get in any further trouble. Especially if you're alone too, because if they see that you're alone, they might use that to their advantage to accuse you of a bunch of stuff that you didn't even do. So be street smart about the whole thing. So you don't have to answer a store's question if you don't want to. Just leave. They might ask you questions to get you in trouble or something. Just don't answer. Just leave. Just say you're not interested. Just leave. So, because some of these stores, they're troublemakers. Like maybe they fought with a customer previously, maybe an hour before you come along there. Maybe the manager is fighting with them and they just want to take it out on you. Maybe some previous customer really told them off and they just want to take it off, get even with the next guy for it. And when you're in these kind of snobby stores, troublemaking stores, always assume that you're on camera inside and outside the store. So they might try to get your goat, try to get you talking and fighting, but just assume that you're on camera, you're being recorded, and you're going to be in the wrong anyway. Some people take a different approach. If they run into a snobby store, watch store, jewelry store, some people will be extra kind and polite to the snobby store. Try to kill them with kindness, they say. That might work, but why even waste your energy with that? Just walk out of the store. Don't buy anything, just walk out. Some people might just try to be extra polite, but will that really work? Maybe it won't. Who cares anyway, right? You don't really want to show them that you're scared of them. Like, maybe some of these guys, if they're bullies, it might take you being polite that you're scared of them. It might just get worse. But your best, just zip your mouth up, zip it, and walk out of the store. Don't buy anything, just walk out. Now, after all this, you can do an online review yourself. You go on the review sites and see a lot of bad reviews. Well, do a truthful review yourself. If they treated you really bad and you weren't comfortable in the store and you just felt like you had to leave, well, do your own review, right? You could do a video in addition if you want to. If you have a YouTube channel, you could do a video. Like some people, it's going to take it the wrong way and say, oh yeah, you were the bad guy and all that. But, just tell the truth. And another thing, like I mentioned, if you go in the store with witnesses, you're going to be better off. Like if you go in a store and they're ignorant to you and you got 3 or 4 witnesses, as many the better, the more the better. It's a lot better than going in alone. If you go in alone, they're probably going to be more bullish with you and be more snotty and snobbish with you. But if you go in with a bunch of people and you're being smart Alex and you're trying to belittle the store clerks and the owners, whatever, then you're all like being smart Alex and laughing. Well, they might retaliate against you too, so don't do that stuff either, right? But if you go in with a bunch of people, just try to be polite and don't be smart Alex and laughing and snickering, asking questions to try to belittle the store clerk and stuff like that. Like try to make the store clerk feel like a bum or something like that to make your friends laugh. Like don't get into that stuff. Just keep it business only. Like you could ask the prices of things if you want. You could ask quality. You could ask where something's made. Just ask reasonable questions that you think are reasonable. So don't buy from these snobby stores. Buy online instead. When it comes to jewelry and watches, all kinds of places to buy this stuff anyway. Especially lower tier watches, you can buy them anywhere. Really, online, there's all kinds of online stores. There's nice stores you can deal with like Island Watches, Long Island Watches. There's all kinds of nice online stores you can deal with like that. And stores that want to please their customers. You don't have to go into a Snobby store when you got a nice online store like Long Island Watches or Island Watches. And this is just an example of many stores that are okay online. And keep in mind that some of these stores are prejudiced. What I mean by that is they form a negative opinion of a customer or shopper for no reason. Like a customer or shopper goes in a store, and maybe because they're alone, they form a negative opinion on them. They might go in and they just don't like the looks of their clothes, they don't like the looks of their hair, they don't like the fact that the person might be shy, or maybe just extra quiet. They just form some kind of a negative opinion on the shopper or the customer. So just keep in mind that some of these stores are prejudiced to begin with, but just don't play their game. You're better off just get the heck away from them and don't play their game, because all they want to do is get you in trouble. And some of them will even go to the extent to follow you around like you're stealing. Like I've known people that told me that's happened to them. They go in a store and then they start following them around like they're stealing. Well, just all they can do is mind their own business and leave the store and don't go back, really. That's the best case scenario. But again, like some of these stores will have the monopoly where you don't have a choice if it's the only store in town that has a certain thing you have to buy. And, you know, the stores know this, so they're just will play that, you know. Like, they're ignorant because they have the monopoly and they have no competition. And since that's the case, they know the person has no other alternative if they're the only store in town. But the only other alternative they do have is to shop online. And maybe that's why so many people are shopping online, to get away from these ignorant stores. And think about these stores. If they have to be ignorant and bullish with a customer, like maybe they have no business to begin with. Maybe that's the reason, right? So just think about that. Like, don't feel too bad about it if they're ignorant and bullish with you. You'd probably think to yourself, well, business can't be that good if they're ignorant and bullish with you. Maybe they're going out of business anyway. And on one of the YouTube channels, there was a video lately, kind of interesting. And it was about Christopher over on It's Constipated. And it made a good example of what I'm talking about. So he goes into Torno, Las Vegas. So Christopher and 3 friends go into that store. And one of the sales lady was really good and helpful with them and his friends. Showing them all over the round and everything, helpful as can be, right? So then they go into the Rolex section of the store. Sounds like it's a big store. And then there's this clerk called Peter. And then Christopher says to Peter, he says, just like this, he says to Peter, because of the market being so hot right now for Rolex, and because of the supply being so limited, does that hurt your pocket as far as where sales go? So what he meant was people just going into the store looking around, no stock, no supply of anything, so they just leave. So I guess what he meant to say, Christopher meant to say to this Peter guy, well, since you don't have no stock on the shelf, is it having an effect on your sales? Now, this Peter guy got all offensive and defensive with Christopher, throwing up his watch and saying, well, does it look like I'm hurting here and all this and that? And a whole lot of drama. This Peter went into a whole lot of drama. So this Peter sounds like a real fool to me. And this question that Christopher asked him, I mean, it was somewhat of a reasonable question. I mean, I've been on both sides of the counter myself as a customer and on the other side as the salesperson. So if somebody asked me that question as the salesperson, like if somebody said to me, because of the market being so hot right now for Rolex and because of the supply being so limited, does that hurt your pocket as far as where sales go? Now, if somebody asked me that, I would have just said, well, you never know. Just give him an answer that's not really an answer. Say, well, perhaps. This Peter guy could have said, well, I don't know, like maybe. And maybe this Peter guy could have just said to him, well, we'll just see where the future goes from here, or you never know how things will go. He could have just said, I don't know, or just an answer that's not really an answer. He could have just said, oh, I don't know, or he could have said, well, since sales aren't that good, could you lend me a couple bucks, Christopher? Christopher would have left the store pretty quick then. But there's no point for this Peter guy to go into all this drama and throwing up his watch, pulling up and down his sleeve, and being all snotty and defensive and offensive. I mean, you're just talking to Christopher from his constipated. I mean, what the heck? I mean, what do you expect? I mean, what does Christopher expect? What does this Peter expect? I mean, was this Peter guy supposed to roll out the red carpet for Christopher? I don't know. But this Peter guy, all he had to say is, oh, I don't know. You know, just don't give him an answer. But really, the question was reasonable. I mean, if you have no stock on the shelf, do you make any money? Well, I don't know. That's what that Peter should have said. I don't know. So that's a good example. Now, there's some other stores that are quite ignorant and snobby too, in addition to watches and jewelry stores. And they include auto parts stores. I find auto parts stores really snotty and ignorant. Like, they're just terrible. Now, here you got these guys, and they think because they got a nice store, maybe $1 million or so, over $1 million in stock, that they think that they're just somebody. They think that they're somebody better than anybody. You go into these auto parts store, and you ask a reasonable question, they just get all kind of like, oh, I don't want to, why should I answer for you? Why should I serve you? Like, kind of attitude, you know? And when I go into an auto parts store, I like to know the different prices of one item. Because if you go to order one item, there's usually 3 or 4 different prices on it, right? 3 or 4 different tiers. So I like to ask about the different tiers. A lot of them don't want to answer that, right? So when I go to auto parts store, I find usually they're snotty. And what I do to counter that, I just shop online. So that's, if you find ignorant auto parts stores, shop online instead. Go to Rock Auto online and shop from there. Now, another kind of stores that are ignorant are grocery stores. And that's because they got the monopoly. Like, there's not too many grocery stores around usually, especially in small towns and little small cities. The grocery stores are few and far between usually. And I think they all kind of work together in their pricing and stuff. But they're usually snotty. And the thing is, just go back to what I told you. Don't engage with them because they'll just throw you out and call the police. Like, I've known guys that went into grocery stores and they started following them around like they're stealing or something. The person wasn't stealing. And they called the police on them just because they didn't like the looks of them. Well, that's prejudice. So these grocery stores, it's better off just not... They just treat them like you don't even want to talk to them. Another thing that's quite ignorant as far as the service goes are libraries. Now, these libraries, there's too many anti-male feminists in these libraries, just too many of them. And if you're a male going into a library, probably you're going to run into an anti-male feminist librarian. And it's going to be the same old thing that they're going to want to look for a reason to throw you out, get you out. They're going to be snotty with you. They're not going to want to answer your questions if you do have a reasonable question. Like, keep your questions reasonable. Keep everything on a legal level. And there's no reason you should get in trouble. But these librarians, they hate males. They're anti-male feminists. And they've went to university and all that, and they think they're better than everybody for the most part, and they hate males. And if you happen to be a male and going into a library, just your chances of running into an anti-male feminist is pretty good. So I would say keep your conversation with them to 0 level. Another place that's really snotty and snobbery is apartment buildings and landlords. There's no end to these apartment buildings and landlords being snotty. And the problem with this is that it's supply and demand again. Like, there's not very many apartments around and all kinds of tenants looking for a place to live. So these landlords know that, and they're going to be snotty and snobby with the tenants and prospective tenants. And they're going to pull stunts like, well, they'll pull stunts like they'll kick a tenant out just to raise the rent. So what happens is the laws, some of these laws in provinces and stuff, will say, okay, you can only raise a tenant's rent a percentage every year. However, when the landlord has a change of tenants, when that tenant moves out and a new tenant moves in, the landlord can raise the rent anywhere they want, any length, like height they want, amount. So they don't really want tenants in there too long because the rent won't go up enough. So they'll just kick out the tenant, make up excuses to kick out a tenant to raise the rent. That's just a scam. Another thing too is all these revenge evictions, retaliatory evictions that landlords do on tenants. Like for example, if you're in an apartment and your apartment needs repairs, you go to your landlord and say, well, I really need repairs in my apartment. Like I can't even function in this apartment. It needs repairs. Then the landlord will get mad and want to evict the tenant because the tenant asked for repairs. So these retaliatory revenge evictions, that's got to stop. Like that's all that stuff's got to stop. Restaurants are snotty and snobbery, a lot of them. And a lot of them, like for example, is that some of these restaurants have all you can eat. Like you buy a plate of something, you can get all you can eat. And some of them, they don't want to do that, right? So they don't want to do it. They advertise. So let's say it's like a restaurant has spaghetti, for example. And one that comes to mind is Eastside Mario's. It's a restaurant in Canada. Anyway, they have all-you-can-eat things, and oftentimes you go in there and they give you a small portion, but you ask for your second helping because it's all you can eat. And they're reluctant to do it, or they have an attitude like that. Or a restaurant could be that you ask for something a certain way and it comes the opposite way. So you don't want to accept it and you just say, well, maybe just take it off. Like, I don't want to get a repeat of it or something. And then they're all like looking at you and talking about you, looking at you. I've seen like that happen to my friends before. There's many ways that restaurants can be ignorant people. There's many ways all these businesses can be ignorant and snotty with people. Fast food restaurants included. Like you go to order at the desk and they don't really pay attention to what you're trying to order, and then they get all snotty with you because they want to pay attention, stuff like that. Chain restaurants are bad too. There's all kinds of ways chain restaurants can be ignorant and snotty with people. Like Zenless. Some of them are just like so incompetent that like you order something and then like an hour later they're going around to table to try to find the like who ordered the stuff. So a lot of this snottiness from places and businesses and services, it comes from their own incompetence, as you can see the pattern, right? Gas stations, they're ignorant and snotty too, a lot of them. Like I'm not saying all these businesses and services are snotty. It's just that they tend to, if you do find some of these places, they are snotty. Gas stations are pretty bad too. But you think about that, like here's somebody on the counter and they're there, I think some of them work too long of hours, so they take it out on the people, the customers. Same thing with the convenience stores, they're there so long. And they take it out on the customers because their hours are so long. I think that's the way they act. And convenience stores have a tendency to be really cheap. Like, for example, you could get a cup of pop at a convenience store, and let's say you go to pull out a cup, you get two cups stuck together. You can't separate them without ruining them. So you just fill up the two cups with your pop, and then they get all mad on you because you used two cups. You didn't use two cups, you actually saved two cups. But a lot of them are really stupid that work at those stores. Like they can't make any sense of anything. And a lot of these places, they're just stupid and selfish, and they can't really calculate anything to make anything make sense. Like they just don't make any sense. And towing companies, I find some of those to be really ignorant. Like they just think that they can be really snotty with people, and people are just desperate to have them or something. And I find a lot of complaints about towing companies. And with towing companies, they're either one extreme or the other. I find they're either really quite nice to people or they're really bad. So they're usually one extreme or the other. They're usually really good or really bad, really. And hardware stores, they can be quite ignorant too. Like you try to get help in a hardware store, it's almost impossible. And hardware stores, like they'll spend all their time on one customer, and it could be some customers really not buying anything, but they'll spend all this time on you're trying to get help and they don't want to help you. And if you do, they act like it's like they act like you're inconveniencing them, and the cashiers are quite ignorant too at hardware stores, I find. I'm not saying all of them, but some of them. And one store I've always found to be quite ignorant in Canada is Canadian Tire. Like this Canadian Tire store, these stores have always been ignorant. And I think the employees there, they seem to be jaded for the most part. They're jaded and they're know-it-alls. So they treat the customers like they don't know anything, and it's a big corporate power. And if they don't want to serve you or help you, they just won't. And Canadian Tire, so many people complain about Canadian Tire, it's unbelievable. And I don't find it to be a good franchise at all, Canadian Tire. Like, you're usually paying top dollars for stuff at Canadian Tire. And it's like the employees there really don't know their stuff. Because there's so many departments. Like, Canadian Tire has hardware, has sporting goods, it has like some electronics in it, has a whole range of things. And there's really nobody there that really knows their stuff. And at Canadian Tire, I find a lot of employees are quite ignorant. And they're all tired and jaded, and you'll just find them to be ignorant. Like, very rarely you find someone good at a Canadian Tire store. And if anybody that lives in Canada shops at Canadian Tire, they probably identify with what I'm saying here, because I'd say 9 times out of 10, Canadian Tire store, you're not going to find anybody very good. It's a snotty store. It's a snobby store. And Canadian Tire is just the kind of store that you want to shop at it if you really have to. And again, they got the thing with the big monopoly, right? They're the biggest store that has these departments for automotive related and sports related. Just they're all over the place, so you end up at a Canadian Tire store. And for people who live in the United States, it's sort of like with the Walmart thing. Like, there's Walmart stores everywhere. And the same thing in Canada now too. There's Walmart stores everywhere. But I find Walmart to be better than Canadian Tire as far as the way they treat people. But I don't know about the United States. Another store I find that don't treat people all that good is McDonald's. And that's the same thing. Like, they're everywhere, these McDonald's, and they got somewhat of a monopoly in fast food and stuff. But McDonald's is kind of one extreme or the other. Like, they'll either treat you pretty good or pretty bad. It goes to that thing. And I've seen people being thrown out of McDonald's really for no reason. Like, I knew a fella, and he went to McDonald's with his mother. So he was helping an elderly mother. I knew a fella that had an elderly mother. And he was helping his elderly mother go to McDonald's. And they went every day, just about every day. Went to McDonald's, and they wouldn't have huge meals, but they'd have sort of like a brunch. So they'd have some of the breakfast items and that sort of thing, or maybe a wrap or something, a few drinks. They go to this McDonald's every day, a couple different locations. And they got to the point where they didn't really treat them that well. And so the guy's mother was trying to just make some just casual talk with one of the counter people. Just casual talk, and then she reported it to her manager and owner as harassment. So the fella and his mother come in the store one day in the McDonald's, and so they got served, they sat down, and then all of a sudden all these police show up and they escort them out of the store. And they give them a notice of no trespassing for every McDonald's in Canada. So that shows you how stupid McDonald's is. They got customers they don't want, but the customers come in the store and they serve them. They serve these customers. Why would they serve customers they don't want to serve? So here comes customers. They don't want them in the store, but they serve them. They serve them their food, take their money, so that the people sit down and start eating, and then the police pile in on them. So how dumb is McDonald's? And that just goes to show you how stupid some of these stores are. If the store don't want to serve you, well, if they don't want you in the store, don't serve you, right? So some of these places, they want their cake and eat it too, right? That's what it all comes down to. They want their cake and eat it too. So how to handle snobby watch and jewelry stores? Well, don't give them any business. If you get in there and it's starting to be a conflict and confrontation, just walk out. You don't have to answer their questions. Just walk out. Get the heck out. Don't fight with them. Don't say stuff that'll get you arrested. Don't threaten them. Don't swear at them. Don't damage anything. Don't start breaking stuff. Don't smash your fist on the counter. Don't let them get your goat, because maybe that's what they want you to do. They want to get your goat, get you mad. So just walk out, don't say anything, and you should be fine. And if you have witnesses with you, all the better. So you guys go ahead and comment in the comment section anything you think of. And I hope you guys have a good day, and I hope that your shopping experiences are excellent. Okay, thank you guys.